So here's your ghetto intro to the gastrointestinal tract. Okay, so food starts off in your mouth, which is very high class, very high tech, very cool. So you start out with the process of mechanical digestion, known as mastication, not to be confused with masturbation. That's a whole different part of the body. So let's just start with that. Okay, so mastication. You might know that as chewing. So that happens, your teeth grind up all the food, very, very neat, very cool. Takes a lot of effort, props to the teeth. And then you have 3 major salivary glands in your mouth, which are the parotoid, the submaxillary, and the sublingual. And you produce about 800 to 1500 milliliters of saliva every day. So if you like sat and like salivated over a bucket, that's how much would come out. It's pretty gross, actually. So your saliva has a few different functions. It cleans your like mouth and your like tissue and your teeth. It breaks down food and like binds it together. And when I say breaks down food, I mean it begins like the breakdown process, so like starches and fats. So like that piece of bread you're eating, say bye, like it's already done for. There's no going back. So after that, we get to learn how swallowing works, which may be different for some of you guys depending on how adult you are. Not that kind of swallowing, other kind of swallowing, although it work the same. So if you want to know how any sort of swallowing works, I'm your girl. Alright, so swallowing. Your tongue initiates the process by like pushing the food back. Your larynx closes so that your food doesn't go in your trachea because literally nobody wants to choke. Alright, that's not why we're swallowing. And then your soft palate rises, and what that prevents is food from going up your nose because seizing out a french fry would be really, really uncomfortable. I've like thrown out french fries whole before and that wasn't pleasant, so I can't imagine it'd be much better going out of my nose. True story, I ruined a watch doing that. I'm not going to ruin this one, it's okay. So now that we're done with the mouth and we've moved on to the swallowing, we go to the esophagus, which is like this big arse tube that goes from all the way from your mouth down. Very big tube, and it has like a whole bunch of muscles. Very cool. So its job is to like push the food down. The food's like and that little at the bottom is this like sort of flap, you can think of it as. That's the entryway to your stomach. And what the esophagus does is it relaxes to allow the food to pass in, and then it has to tighten up really, 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 really quickly, or your food and your stomach acid and all that's going to come back up. And that's the phenomenon known as like heartburn or GERD. That's the formal medical name for it. So then we gotta like avoid the heartburn because nobody has time for that. Nobody. So we have the stomach. The stomach is super duper cool. The stomach has a very big job to do. So, believe it or not, one of the most important parts of the stomach is mucus. Yay, mucus! Everybody loves mucus. Callie's loving mucus. Love me some mucus.
Callie, you love mucus?
Sure.
I know her throat's loving some mucus right now. Anyways, yeah, so your mucus protects your stomach from, like, eating itself. Because your stomach is an absolute barbarian, absolute savage, has no morals whatsoever. So the mucus is like, you gotta stop here, bud. This is the security checkpoint. Your acid needs to turn around. And then you have the acid that I'm referring to is hydrochloric acid, and its job is to create this optimal pH, which is like 1.8 to, like, I think 3.5. And the reason acid is so important isn't just because, like, I mean, it's acid and has obvious uses, but it's actually to activate a specific enzyme in your stomach that's known as pepsin. And this is what's going to help further that breakdown process of food. Note that if you're a tiny human, you also have what's called renin, which is going to break down your lactose for you. However, nobody in this room is a tiny child, so you either have, like, no renin or, like, less renin or renin deficiency. So yeah, that's cool. So that's what your stomach does, and your stomach also does some controlled emptying. You know, your stomach has to be able to empty things out into other parts of the body. So then once we're, like, totally done with the stomach, once we're, like, past there, we go on to the small intestine. Everybody loves intestines. So cool. So great. Okay, so your intestine has a few jobs. Part of it is just to, like, push food down. Your intestines have 3 layers. It's the mucosa, the circular, and the longitudinal. And those mix food, push it down and get it to where it needs to go, and blah, blah, blah. That's the function of all of those. Like, they all have different functions, but let me tell you, the word sweep is in all of them, so how different can they be, really? So your food's passing through there. Your intestine also does, like, the secretion of enzymes thing. Very cool. It's going to help us break stuff down. And it also has some like expansive properties that tie into like the large intestine. So I'll move on to that. So we have the large intestine and the small intestine. Very cool. And they have villi, microvilli, and mucosal folds. And what those do is like, okay, so like say my intestine without those could wrap around this room like once. First of all, that'd be absolutely effing disgusting. But these like villi and microvilli and all that fun stuff, it enables it to wrap around this room like 1,000 times. Literally, it expands your intestine up to like 1,000 size its normal like surface area for absorption. So that's how you could take so much into like the intestines. But my favorite part of the large intestine is the colon. Yay, colon! Everybody loves the colon. Yay! Your colon's really gross. Your colon's really gross. If you don't believe me, there's so many species of bacteria, okay? So many. Like, if you think, like, it has 100 different species, you're going to need to go a whole lot higher. It has, like, way more than, like, 1,500 species of bacteria. And these bacteria get really, really pissed off when you take antibiotics. They don't like newcomers. And they don't like things that eat them. So antibiotics don't sit well with your bacteria. Your bacteria are like, And antibiotics can also permanently change the makeup of your colon bacteria. So, it's a thumbs down on the antibiotics from them. 0 out of 10 colon bacteria would recommend. And your colon handles 95% of your water absorption, which is 1 liter to 1.5 liters a day. It's way more water than I drink a day, so I don't know where it's getting it from. But hey, it's still working. So, props to my colon. And it also handles like minerals and vitamins and all that fun stuff. So what the colon likes, here's what the colon likes to eat. It really likes sodium and electrolytes. The colon's like, yes, cut me a slice of those electrolytes. But 90% of your calcium and iron goes to crap, quite literally. It's like gone. Your colon doesn't want it, which makes your fecal matter really nutrient rich. And I had my boyfriend ask me the other night, he's like, does that mean we should eat our feces? Like, no, stupid, 90% of it's gonna go to waste again. So, yeah. And then for vitamins, now your colon bacteria really hate antibiotics. They get pissed off by antibiotics. We covered that. But man, they really like vitamins. Especially, I think it's like vitamin B. I don't remember why, but I know the colon bacteria, they really like vitamin B. They're like, So sodium, electrolytes, vitamin B, that's all the stuff your colon likes. Water, super great, awesome. So then from there we can follow like the tracking of like your fecal matter or waste production or whatever. After 4 hours, it enters the cecum, and after 8, it enters what's called the sigmoid colon, and then enters like this waiting room stage. When the waiting room gets too full, they got to start kicking people out. It's like me at work when people stay after closing. You're there too long, and we don't want you there. So yeah, then it, leaves your body and exits and all that. And if you were wondering about like any type of absorption, there's different paths it follows. Okay? And stuff in your body is absorbed a couple of ways. It can be, diffusion, osmosis, penocytosis, but other means of absorption. We can talk about what happens if you're not a lipid. What happens if you are not a fat? And what happens then is then you're just taken up into the wall of your, intestine. Or no, I'm sorry, if you are not a fat, you get to, move on through. If you are a fat, you get taken up into, the wall of the intestine, and there's a whole bunch of, little really annoying steps that I still haven't memorized. Don't call me out. And then eventually, I suppose you end up in, the left subclavian. And if you're not that fat, like I said, you just get to pass on through. You go into the portal blood, and you go to the liver, and you have a party in the liver. And yeah, that's your gastrointestinal tract. So the gastrointestinal tract is made up of your mouth, your trachea, your esophagus. It's made up of your trachea if you like choking. Your stomach, small intestine, large intestine, which includes your colon, and you have rectum area, and then The gastrointestinal tract has these little, like, assistants, like these little minions, these little henchmen, and those would be like your pancreas and gallbladder. So yeah, this is your ghetto introduction to the GI tract. It's a lot more entertaining when I don't have to, like, make it kid-friendly.
If you like what you see, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, check out some of these other videos, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye!